Yo, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. We greatly appreciate you guys being here. In this video, we are going to be going over one of the races in Ashes of Creation. We're going to be talking about the Aela race in Ashes of Creation, or more commonly known as a human. Yeah, so first off, I'm just going to kind of read the description of the Aela race, and then we're going to go through the different types of Ayla, and then we're going to kind of give our thoughts on some of the subject matters here. So let's start off by reading the description here. So the Aylan Empire is the most recent successor of the once great House of Lyneth. For over 1,000 years, the House of Lyneth ruled over the Ayla. A golden age endured for most of their reign. It was only during the dawn of the last century before the fall, during the Great War of the Undying, that the house fell. With no suitable heir to the Lyneth throne, the country fell into chaos. What arose is the fragile republic we see today, overseen by the emperor elected through the Council of Five, the five who govern the greatest cities of the empire. The Aylan Empire is by far the largest nation in all of Vera, with over 8 million souls among its inhabitants. Aylans also represent the single largest population on Vera. Their borders touch upon every other nation, and with their interest of expansion on the seas of Vera, they're able to deploy their widely feared armies to any shore. The Empire uses this fear to bully many city-states, bending them to their will. Those who deny the will of the Empire often find themselves at the end of a sword. So that is the description of the Ayla human. So a couple of things I want to break down here, Red, and I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about the part that says they are the largest nation in all of Vera. So does that mean that whenever we get into Vera, we're going to see a ton of Ayla NPCs roaming around, more so than any other race? What are your thoughts there on them being the largest nation in all of Vera? Do you think that's gonna shine through whenever we actually get into Vera?
Potentially. I think it's interesting because, you know, as from the lore standpoint of Ashes of Creation, everybody's just kind of coming back to Vera. So we'll see how, you know, the establishment goes, or, you know, as territory goes. I don't know, man, because, you know, interestingly enough, I think the nodes are influenced by what race controls them. So, you know, who knows? I think it'll be player driven at that point, which of the races is actually the most popular in game.
Right. Yeah, I just found that to be a pretty interesting line. It also says their borders touch upon every other nation. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. But another thing that I find pretty interesting about the Ayla and about that particular quote right there, or description right there of the Ayla, is that it also says that their interest of expansion on the seas of Vera. So as of now, we don't really know what the racial benefits are for being any one race in Ashes of Creation, but interest of expansion on the seas of Vera. So does that mean potentially we'll get some sort of racial benefit revolving around like water content, some sort of buff for being in the water, or swimming buff, or some sort of like selling buff or something like that? Do you think that could be potential for the human race and one of the benefits of being a human in Ashes of Creation?
I think that's definitely potentially going to be the case. I know that there are some other races, like I think there's an orc that is like seafaring and good with like navigation as far as astral things go. So I think potentially, yeah, I think that's also actually a pretty cool racial to have, is that if they're better at on sea, or like with sailing or fishing or whatever. I think those are really cool concepts, especially like you mentioned, they did kind of point that out, that the Ayla was very accustomed to sea life. So we'll see, dude. I think that's definitely potentially a racial for them.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting because there is kind of a contradictory thing in here too with one of the different types of Ayla, because one of them is kind of a desert dwelling race, but we'll get into that here in just a second. So one of the other things that I find pretty interesting about the Ayla is that they sound like tyrants trying to take over all of Vera, man. This last part here says the Empire uses this fear to bully many city-states, bending them to their will. So listen, dude, that sounds like your type of people, Red. You're just going to be an Ayla and run around and just bully people into giving you what you want? Is that what you're going to do?
That's not fair. I don't plan on being an Ayla. And the thing is, it just depends on who you ask, right? Like maybe they're tyrants if you're an elf, or maybe the elves are tyrants if you're an orc, you know?
This is true. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's all within perspective, right? But no, I don't plan on being an Ayla, but we're going to talk more about that later, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, there are two different types of playable Ayla humans, and one of them is the Kaelar. So the Kaelar, they are founded on three basic principles, which is build, order, and civilization. So their empire in the old world span largest of all, and they plan to do the same in this world. They're extremely loyal to their roots, and the Kaelar will rise to the challenge. So there's also the Vaelune race, which is another playable Ayla human race in Ashes of Creation, and their three principles are trade, law, and hardship. So the Vaelune were forged in the heat of the desert, which is pretty contradictory to what we heard earlier with their seafaring ways. So I found this kind of interesting too. And through the ages became a blade that bends but do not break. I like that part, dude. Through the development of a complex web of relationships and savvy negotiation, the Vaelune grew into one of the wealthiest empires in Sanctus. Despite having a few natural resources to exploit themselves, their environment has taught them what it means to kill or be killed, whether through the beast of the desert or the snakes in the market square. So what are your thoughts on the two playable races, the two playable Aela races? They seem to be very, very different, and that's pretty interesting to me too. The Kaelar seems like a very proud bunch. You know, they've been around forever and ever. They seem like a very proud bunch, extremely loyal to their roots. They almost seem a little stuck up, dude. What do you think about the Kaelar, Ed?
So this brings me back to my EverQuest days, dude, because you had the two main cities, Kinos, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody pronounced it a different way. And you had Freeport. So the Freeport were the desert dwelling, races. It was centered around, like you mentioned, the Vaelune is, and then the Kaelar seems to be more like of a high human type of feel, like kingdoms and kings and queens and all those things. So I'm with you, dude. I love that. I love the diversity in the human race in this game. I think it's gonna be cool and interesting how people work this, their race into their class, and I think a lot of that's tied to the racials. So I can't wait for them to reveal what the racial traits for each of these races are, especially the human races.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems it's kind of hard for me to sit here and predict kind of the Kaelar's racial passives because there's not a lot to go on there. They might
be the sea people, honestly. They seem like a port-based,
maybe so.
Kingdom-based.
Yeah, that may be a pretty good guess because they are trying to take over everything, basically. They're trying to be the biggest empire, the oldest empire in the world. So they may be just sailing around trying to take things over. And so that may be one of their passives.
Naval armies are very important for world destruction.
They are. So that might be an interesting race to play. You may change your mind after all. So so then we have the Vaelune. So the Vaelune, they seem to be very much like savvy negotiators, tradesmen, but they also seem to be tough, like really tough people. Because it says the blade that bends but does not break. They've been grown up in the desert, probably lived a pretty harsh life, but they also can deal with, it says here, snakes in the market square. So they can negotiate. Yeah, me too. They can negotiate. They can deal with kind of these sleazy, slimy people in the market square trying to rip people off. So it seems like maybe one of their racial passives is going to revolve around some sort of trade negotiation or something. Yeah. Maybe you get a percentage off of trading. Charisma. Yeah, exactly. Some sort of charisma buff or something like that. Something along those lines, right? So yeah, what do you think about the Vaelune, man? Do you like where that's going?
If I was gonna be a human, which I don't plan on that right now, it would definitely be the Vaelune. I love the idea of like this desert dwelling ranger or mage. I like that concept way better than the prompt little prince or whatever the fudge you want to be as a Kaelar. No offense, Kaelar players, but I would definitely go with the Vaelune. I love the hard edge to them. I like the Assassin's Creed feel of their their garb and style. I love the Vaelune lore too. I like the idea of the desert. Just again, it kind of gives me a little bit of nostalgia from Freeport back in EverQuest. So I'm digging it.
Yeah, well, you stole a little bit of my thunder there because I was going to say Vaelune as well. But I'm going to switch it up here, dude. I'm going to say Kaelar just because you said Vaelune, and the Kaelar, they think they're better than the Vaelune from what I gather here. So, dude, I'm better than you. I'm better than you, bro. That we're gonna leave it at that.
You're
know,
better
hey,
than me.
Kaelar.
You think.
Hey, that's all that matters, man. That's all
word.
that matters, dude. Perception is reality, and whenever I perceive that I'm better than you, I'm better than you. That's how it goes, dude. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, what happens if we both think we're better than each other? Then where both of our realities are different.
Yeah. I think they're both skewed.
Yeah.
All right, dude. That about wraps it up, man. You have anything else to add about the Ayla human race and Ashes of Creation?
No, I'm excited for this series, man. I'm excited to get on to my race, dude. I'm gonna leave it until we do it, till we cover it. But
I think you already kind of spoiled it earlier in the video, but that's okay.
What'd I say?
I like the teaser. Well, I'm not going to rehash it now just in case you didn't.
I didn't. I haven't mentioned anything about it yet.
I like the cliffhanger.
Yeah. Wait till maybe next time or whatever race, whatever time we cover it.
All right, man. Well, that about does it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. We greatly appreciate you guys. We also have a podcast called Ashes to Go that releases here on the Studio Loot YouTube channel, as well as available on all podcasting platforms. So if you're into Ashes of Creation and like this type of content, we will be covering it here on the channel and on the podcast. So make sure you hit the subscription button, ring the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up, man. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.